Everyone. Lovely to see you all. Um, my name is John Rudikoff. I'm here with my co-lecturer, Mark Pakowitz, as well as our third partner in crime, Marcos Lindley, ML326 at Columbia. Uh, very happy to be teaching this course during the summer. This is the third time that Mark and I are collaborating on teaching the course. I think we really enjoy it, and to your advantage, I think we're getting even better at it. So, hopefully this summer we really hit it out of the park. Um, a couple ground rules, just general, just as a general matter. When teaching on Zoom, greatly prefer that everyone have their cameras turned on so that we can see you and that you're present and that we can actually engage with one another. Understand if today you might not have been aware of that rule or restriction. So, for those of you that are taking class in a public place, we will be expecting you to speak today. So you certainly should find a quiet place. And for people with family circumstances or some other extenuating circumstances that prevents you from being able to be on camera, please feel free to reach out to me and Mark directly. And we're not going to be fascistic about it, but we certainly are. Our expectation is for taking a graduate level course. We do want to have direct engagement, and having our camera on is one way we can do that in a Zoom world. Luckily, Mark and I have both taught on Zoom before, in COVID and beyond. There are certain rules of the road. I think this course lends itself absolutely fine to teaching on Zoom. Really looking forward to it. Mark, can you share the PowerPoint?
I
Because I've
still
moved on
haven't
to,
seen it come into my inbox yet, John.
where did I send it to? Did I send it to another Mark of my contacts? No, I sent it to your Columbia account.
Okay. I'm sorry, folks, as John was saying, we have taught this class before. This is the first time we're teaching it solely on Zoom. So we're still working on some of the logistics here.
That's right.
Um, John, for some reason, this hasn't come in yet. I have, um,
Well,
eh,
I could do presenter mode for this first
okay,
series of slides. Certainly, I don't need
okay.
any notes on my part to be able to do that. View, uh, share settings. So is that visible now to everyone? If I go into presenter mode, okay. You guys see that now? We're on the power. Yes, no? Oh, here's what I did wrong.
Here, John, I got it. How's that? Can everybody
Okay.
see that? Great. I'm seeing thumbs up and
Yep.
nods. Great.
Great. Great. Thank you, Mark. Um, all right, so let's just go to slide number two. Uh, well, hi guys. It's lovely lovely to meet you all. We are going to do proper introductions so that we can learn a bit about you and your interests in taking the course. The course is titled Law for Technology. It's been some private thinking between me and Mark that the course should really be called Law for Technologists. The idea being that what we're essentially engaging in is a bit of a survey that's going to give you some sophistication, some insight, some ability to read the law, negotiate a contract, understand these terms of legalese that are being thrown around as you progress in your career, and that's a component of your degree program, a valuable component of your degree program. So that's really something that Mark and I are excited to add to your knowledge base. As far as class today, We're going to give an overview of the course. We're going to do introductions of ourselves, of Marcos, but then we're going to look to each of you, and we have a set of questions that we'd like you each to respond to. Given that we're a nice small group, and it is, as a teacher, it is really nice to be in a smaller class situation. We really can take our time with everyone, taking a minute or two to read through the questions and tell us a bit about themselves. And honestly, that matters quite a bit to me and Mark. We wouldn't be doing this for the money. We're doing this for the engagement, and for the benefit to us as thinkers, to get your perspectives, your ideas, and the opportunity to review our thinking with you. So we're going to go through introductions. We're going to do an overview of the modules, offering the caveat before we get into the modules that, for better or for worse, as we continue to revise the course, and especially because we're teaching it over the summer now and schedules will be a tad irregular, there may be some shifting around of modules. I think Mark and I are yet to finalize exactly the progression of modules that we're going to touch on. But we'll talk about course principles. We'll talk about grading. We'll talk about policy. And then we're going to get into some of the umbrella issues for the course. What is the law? What is Maslow's hierarchy of needs? What is good to great? What is the hedgehog theory? And then into a little bit about mission statements and the way that those, as marketing documents or as sort of legal commitments, what do they represent about the entities that draft and adopt them? Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Mark, do you want to go to the next slide? Hi, Lynn. I see your DM, and that is a-okay, 100% understood. Okay, Marcos, did you capture everyone who's here, or should we take care of that? I guess
No,
we
we
will
we
see.
we actually there is a report that we can run that captures everyone that logs in anyway.
Great. Wow, that's easy. I wish I knew about that 8 years ago.
It's a new it's a new feature.
Sounds good. Thank you. So we're going to do intros. I guess I'll lead because my name comes first, then Mark, then Marcos. Then we're going to do a round robin around the room. And Mark and I can call each of you out, and we'll probably have a couple questions and reflections just as you share with us about your bios and backgrounds. And look, we'll want to know you because we will look to you as the semester progresses and as topics come up that touch on your own skill sets and your own areas of expertise. All right, so Mark, could you just flash forward to the next slide quickly? Okay, we can go back. Thanks. All right, so I'll give a brief intro of me. I'll try to keep it to the 60 to 90 second variety. Mark, did the shared screen just come down?
It did, because I figured we should be focusing on each other. I can flash up the questions
Okay,
again.
that's fine.
No.
All right. I was just trying to remind myself of the questions for myself. Well, hey guys, it's really nice to meet you all. My name is John Rudikoff. I teach here at Columbia, and I also teach at Brooklyn Law School. At Brooklyn Law School, I teach a course on negotiation. I teach a course on interviewing and counseling, which is really shorthand for client engagement and client management. I've also historically taught a course called Startup Law, which is a course for law students, but in many ways resembles what we do here in Law for Technologists. And I've also been a visiting faculty member teaching a clinical program where we work with startup companies, and that's actually a clinical course that Mark continues to teach with. So I'll let Mark tell you about the blip programs in ways that it was foundational to both me and Mark as teachers, including the founder and professor who is a dear friend of both of ours. I've been practicing law for about 20 years now, actually literally 20 years, because I graduated law school in 2006. And according to the calendar, it's 2026. So we are coming up on my 20th year anniversary of practice. I've done a number of things. I was a district attorney straight out of school, so I had a 5-year background in criminal prosecution, litigation. I did that for some time and started something at the DA's office called the Environmental Crimes Unit, In that capacity, I investigated and prosecuted mostly corporate actors for environmental crime, a lot of fish and wildlife, water pollution, some air pollution stuff in and around New York City, specifically around Brooklyn, where I was practicing. I went to a firm very briefly, continuing to do litigation, but private civil litigation. Did that very briefly. Was not a great fit for me professionally, and ended up doing something much closer to what I do today, which is I went in house to a design firm as general counsel, and we were a startup, and I oversaw obviously everything legal, but also oversaw HR and employment, commercial contract, um, tax, our foreign practice. Really had to manage a multidisciplinary team. So being a general senior manager, and did that for a number of years until I left that to start teaching and also to form my own practice. I now practice under the moniker of John Rudakoff Law. I manage some 80 to 100 clients any given time, and have been doing that now for about 5 or 6 years. I have a couple other roles and things that I engage in. I run a legal clinic through the Freelancers Union. I'm the founder and managing director of that clinic. In that clinic, we provide free legal services to creative freelancers facing issues around contract negotiation, non-payment, formalizing their consultancies. Really runs the gamut and keeps me quite fresh. I also serve on the board of directors of an organization called Terraform One. I used to chair that board, but have subsequently stepped back into just being a regular old director. Practice downtown. I have two young kids. They will make cameo appearances at points throughout our summer. Otherwise, Mark, did I leave anything meaningful out? I don't know. I think that's me in a nutshell, pretty much. And if anyone has any idea other than Mark why I'm wearing a Hawaiian short sleeved shirt teaching a course during the summer, you will receive extra credit. Okay, that's it for me. Now, Mark, you can provide first. First, just tell me you know the reference, and then you can provide an intro of yourself.
Um, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm guessing, is it summer school? Mark Harmon?
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good. I knew you. How would you not have known that?
yeah. That was an '80s comedy, folks. For those of you who haven't seen it, with Mark Harmon and Kirstie Alley and a few other
Not
people.
a particularly good movie, but
No,
still
no, but
indelibly
iconic for
printed on my brain.
people of our generation. So yeah, my name is Mark Podkowitz. I am also an attorney, practice at a firm called Bortstein Legal Group. It's a boutique firm doing technology transactions for largely financial services firms, so banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, heavily regulated financial institutions. The three clients with whom I work the most have an average assets under management of about $2 trillion. So we're talking about very, very big organizations. I can't tell you which, but you would know them. They're a lot of the Wall Street banks. But before that, I ran a center on legal innovation at a university in the United Kingdom in Belfast called Ulster University. Um, and before I sort of started my career as an attorney, I had a separate career in federal legislative and administrative policy in Washington, D.C., working on a lot of issues, the intersection of national security, intelligence, defense, and civil liberties. And doing that sort of prompted me to become a lawyer because a lot of people in the space kept confusing me for one, and I didn't want to get in trouble. Going to the idea of what the superpowers are, and this is sort of a unique thing about you that sort of tipped on this. I watch and enjoy a lot of movies. I haven't seen Summer School in probably 15 years. Nonetheless, was able to catch the reference that John threw out. And so I guess if I were to say my superpower, it would be sort of remembering things related to movies that I've seen, whether I saw them last year, whether I saw them 20 years ago. And I think that's it. As far as other activities, I'm general counsel for an AI ethics nonprofit called For Humanity and have been since 2020 or 2019. And most recently, I had been co-chair of the AI subcommittee on the New York City Bar Association's Technology Committee. So that's a bit about me. And Marcos, I don't know if you're able to pop on in.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Marcus Lindley. I'm actually a graduate of this program back in 2014. I have been a student taking the law class. I have been a associate instructor in the law class. I've been a adjunct professor in Columbia. I currently work for a company called Tata Consulting. We are working at a client called Boeing Airlines. So I'm working with the military team as we build fighter jets. And interestingly enough, from a law perspective, we've had this whole thing about what data we can see. You have to be a U.S. citizen to look at military data. I said it all to say is that the legal contracts, they never go away in your job. So you're going to learn a lot. The biggest thing I say about this course, most people want to get an A plus. Just submit your work on time. Let us know if you're sick or if you're out, um, and we're here for you. Have a good. Thank you for meeting everyone.
Great. Thanks, gents. Yes, and Marcos with his counselor on doing courses spot on. I would just add to that, do all the reading. Do all the reading. Even the stuff that we don't mention, even the stuff that we don't delve into, it does provide a really nice survey of the topics that we're talking about. Is definitely going to enrich your learning as we progress throughout the course of the semester. Um, all right, so continuing with introductions, let's go through each of you. It seems that we have 10 people here besides me and Mark and Marco. So according to the grid in front of me, the first person up is, and I don't want to catch anyone off guard. Grace, you're up first. But I'll just say Grace, then we'll go Aryan, and then Akash.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
everyone can know their order, and I'll update the order as we progress. So no one's like, "Am I next?" All right.
Yeah. Thank you, John. And thank you, Mark. Thank you for your passionate introduction. My name's Grace. I am in the third semester right now, based in California. And my background, last 5 years, I was working in a semiconductor company, helped it went public on NASDAQ. I was in charge of Marcom branding, PR, all the external communication. And going through 0 to 1 and then 1 to 100, I started to think about corporate governance. So this is my first reason I wanted to take this class. I want to understand what is the board, what is the board member's function, because initially, when you're just doing your own role in a vertical, you don't see that. And we happen to have a board member who was also alumni and then also a faculty at the business school. So very interested into understanding corporate governance, how that work. And then now I'm actually pivoting to AI. So from chips to AI, I'm starting my own venture lately and also starting to work with other entrepreneurs in starting AI ventures in physical AI, in AI applications. And I have a small student-driven research platform right now that's born on Columbia campus. And then I have a couple of students working with me. We are trying to develop new AI applications in marketing, in operations, and a couple of professors are supporting us right now from our school. And so I'm very interested in how to structure my organization. For say, should I register it as a school club as well as a nonprofit? Because I'm trying to get donations from board members and whatever instead of getting venture capital. So I would be very happy to talk to Mark and John later on to see if you two can be my guider, important resource to help me get this done correctly. Yeah, and then for superpowers, I don't really know. I think technology is a superpower, but we have to do it correctly. And then also, my personal feeling is that it's actually technology is actually a superpower to create social welfare, not just to make certain people rich but to create social welfare for the entire world. And personal interest, I in California, I do snorkeling. I do a lot of ocean and water related sports, and I am also a calligraphy artist outside of job. Um, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
The calligraphy artist part, very exciting, but really great across the board. One sounds like you're doing great work, and very happy to have you in the course. Always encourage this with students who are already engaged in entrepreneurial ventures. Look across the syllabus, recognizing there will be some shifting. Yeah, try to track that to what you're working on in that given time. So come to class armed with the reading, with questions or hypotheticals pertaining to your own work. That stuff is fun for me and Mark to respond to. And of course, I should just note this right now that Mark and I are certainly available for office hours. I think in our world in this summer, that's primarily going to be like a Zoom call. But really, just feel free to reach out if you'd like to schedule a little time to chat with either of us about anything related to the course. So, Grace, great to meet you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, that's what reminds me too. I forgot to say that. I mean, John's in New York. I'm in New York. We're based in New York. But I know that it's the summer. People are everywhere. So obviously, if any of you is in New York and you wanted to try to do an office hour in person, let us know. Zoom obviously is easier with greater flexibility. I know that John and I also will be being in different places over the summer as well. So there might be a weekend or a week rather when I'm neither of us is in New York, but nonetheless still able to meet. But time zones are always helpful to understand, especially when it comes to scheduling.
Yeah,
it's true. This past semester. Sorry, go ahead, Grace.
no problem. We'll find a time. We will find a time either on Zoom, in person, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Great. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Uh, or if it's like this last semester, I'm just going to bump into you on the street in Soho, as I did to two different students by the end of the semester, just randomly on the street. Um, I know, funny. Uh, good
Too
to
many
meet you.
people.
I know. Well, it was a big class,
Mm.
small city, big class. Um, thank you. Arjun?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, John and Mark. And hey, everyone. My name is Aryun, and I'm joining this summer from Indonesia. Uh, I have undergrad background on computer science, and on the professional side, in the last 6 years, I work as a pre-sales specialist in Indonesia's telecommunication company. I am currently on educational leave now to complete my master degree in information and knowledge strategy, or ICANS, and I'll be heading back to the company after I complete it. And for this course, my main goal is to build legal fluency around technology decision. My career direction is around IT governance role, and I've come to realize that law quietly shapes a lot of what happens in that space. And I want to walk away with an enough foundation to recognize legal implication early and engage with them more confidently in my work. And in terms of superpower, I think my superpower might actually be in the kitchen. I genuinely believe that I am the best chef in the house, and my roommate haven't proved me wrong yet. And for personal interest, I'm about to start a sewing class next month, and it's completely new territory for me, but it's been on my list for a while, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much for me, and I'm looking forward to learn from everyone. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'm impressed with the cooking and with the sewing.
Thanks.
What do you like to cook?
I cook Indonesian menu for this week, so yeah.
Well, great. I'm sorry. I wish you were in New York because we would insist on you bring food to our small class. Well, very nice to meet you, and thank you, Arjun, for sharing. Okay, so next is Akash, and then we'll go Layla, and then Tyler, and then Michael.
I'm Akash, and I'm currently in my third semester as well. And I've always been interested in defense tech is one of my personal interests, I would say. And look, when it comes to the objectives of this course, I'm interested in really taking this class because I wish to understand how law particularly shapes like technology companies. And as like being a technology leader, I always wanted to know more than just like product engineering or innovation. So this course will particularly help me understand how to like deal with founder equity or IP or contracts, governance, finance, M&A, and a bunch of other things. And I wish to learn like how to identify legal risk early on and how to like effectively work with like lawyers, investors, and boards. So overall, I think this class is going to help me make much stronger business decisions, especially in the technology industry. And my career objectives is to become like a strong technology leader who can build, scale, and advise emerging like technology companies. especially in like the AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and like enterprise transformation space. My long-term goal is to like operate at the intersection of like technology, business strategy, law, finance, and governance so that I can make much stronger like board level decision making with confidence. I would say my superpowers are strategic thinking, especially, and connecting technical ideas to like business outcomes, learning quickly, and like staying calm while solving extremely complex problems. I also bring like strong persistence, ambition, and the ability to see like the big picture while focusing on execution. And I would say my personal interests also include like technology innovation, AI, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and especially learning from real world company building stories. Thank you.
Where are you? I'm sorry, I didn't know if I heard that.
I'm currently based in New York, by the way.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Where are you in New York?
I'm in Times Square, so as crazy as that sounds.
That's a crazy place to live.
Yes, it is.
Well, seems like it was pretty noisy there last night, but must have been exciting also.
Yes, yes, 100%.
Great. And very nice to meet you, and I'm glad you're in the course.
Yes, thank you
I
too.
think Layla, were you next? Yes, you
Yes.
were.
Okay.
Yes.
It's really nice to meet all you guys. I'm Layla. A little bit about my background. I'm originally from California. That's where I did my undergrad, at University of California, Santa Barbara, where I studied economics, and moved to New York to pursue technology management at Columbia. So I actually don't have any work experience from my undergrad to Columbia. So hoping to stay in New York as well. My objectives for this course, I'm really interested in entrepreneurship, and I just think with all the emerging AI, it's just really important to get a good background on AI governance. Just seems like such a strong and applicable course. And fun fact, I actually did want to study law for a long time, and I just kind of ended up in technology and AI. That's just the path that I chose, but that still doesn't mean that I'm not like interested in still learning about all of that. Superpowers, I like to say that I'm quite a dependable person, especially in groups. I really like working with other people. And personal interest wise, I'm very passionate about traveling. I also really have a strong passion for the beauty and fashion industry as well. So thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Never too late to study law.
That's
Mark and I will recruit you to law school.
maybe. I actually was considering that for a bit, maybe going and doing that in the future. So we'll see.
Hey, never say never. Well, very nice to meet you, Layla. Are you located in New York or are you in California for the summer?
I'm in New York. Yeah.
All right. Where are you in New York?
It's like Upper West Side near Columbia campus. Yeah.
Sweet. Great. Well, wonderful to meet you. Thank you. Tyler.
Hi everyone. My name is Tyler. I'm a native New Yorker. I went to Cornell for undergraduate, was originally going to be pre-law and decided to take the technology route. So I worked at BlackRock for a couple of years, gaining experience in fintech and business operations before jumping around a couple of startups and ultimately at the startup currently now, working in revenue operations. It's a AI cybersecurity Series B company. Super interesting. I guess objectives for this course, I want to better understand how law and technology intersect, especially around the AI section intersection, and innovation as well as like privacy, business operations. I just think that these are really important topics to learn about now, especially in the current climate. So I would like to just be on top of it with just learning about a lot of the legalities that exist in this space. Career objectives. Long term, I'm hoping to continue growing in the RevOps space, but for more of a consumer-based fashion or creative company, just to blend my interest in business strategy, technology, fashion, design, and culture. My superpower is that I have the ability to have 40 tabs open all at once and somehow still making it work. And my personal interests are design, fashion. I on the side I design a lot of furniture, so I was self-taught with like Clothes 3D, Blender. So I do a lot of that in order to like I guess work the creative portion of my brain as I'm doing like strategy or like working with numbers throughout the day mostly. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic, Tyler. Great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining the course. Excited to hear about your design work, fashion and furniture. Very cool. You're a true Renaissance person. And always happy to have native New Yorkers in the class. I grew up upstate, but I've been I mean I'm a native of the state, but I've lived in the city since college, so quite some time now. Um, Great, thank you, Tyler. All right, sorry, who is next after Tyler? Oh, did I not name anyone next?
I think
Did
it's
I
me,
not?
Michael.
Michael, I did name you Michael.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Nice to meet you. Thank you,
Nice,
Michael.
nice to meet you all. My name, Michael Place. I'm actually a social work student, by the way, but thank you all for allowing me to register for this class. The reason why I registered is because I have an interest in AI governance and policy. I am probably going to law school after this. I'm currently studying for the LSAT to take it in August and maybe September. So any tips for that, I would greatly appreciate. My objectives for this course is just to learn whatever it is that you guys have to offer, really, as it relates to law and technology. I really want to work in AR governance. I think I said that already. I don't know what my superpower would be. I think I'm really good with people. I understand people pretty well, able to empathize and understand people's point of view, and to solve conflict. I'm really good at solving conflict. My personal interests, I like to travel a lot. I'm a native New Yorker, but I've lived all over. I lived in Australia. I lived in Los Angeles more recently. I'm currently in New York, um, but yeah, kind of looking to settle down and no longer do the digital nomad lifestyle. So looking for a place here in New York, and um, yeah, that's me.
Um, Terrific. Thanks. Um, I am happy also to get you in touch with the executive director of the AI ethics nonprofit, if that's an area that you're interested in as well.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, that's why I was
Sure.
super curious where you worked. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, look, sorry, John, I'm just checking my messages. Looks like Michaela is about to depart to the have to do some travel. So can we jump to Michaela to do introductions?
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
of
Sorry.
course. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I am in California right now. It is where I'm from, and I made a little trip, but on the way here, my flight got severely delayed, I think by like at least 10 hours, and I missed my first day, so I had to make it up today. So thank you for getting me in early. Do we still have the questions? Sorry, I think they went
Oh,
away.
sorry, I clicked a thing by accident and I was moving things
Oh,
around.
you're good. I guess some background, California, I actually met Layla in this class at my orientation at UCSB, and we completed our economics degree together for our bachelor's. I have a lot of interest in nonprofit work. Most of my work has been in nonprofit work, specifically around event planning. But then I've also dabbled a little bit in e-commerce for a company called Max Wigs. It's a family friend I was really inspired by when I was a kid. So it was really nice of him to kind of teach me the ropes a little bit. And I guess my objectives is just I feel like everybody's been asking me about AI governance and like law in this really rapidly changing world of AI. And I don't have a full-blown answer yet. I don't have an educated answer, and I'd like to know how to respond to those questions. And I also really want to be an advocate for using tech and AI responsibly. So I also think this class is really core to that. And it's my career. I guess my career is probably like my weakest spot. I'm unfortunately, I guess for me, I love it, but a lot of people don't like to hear. I'm open to a lot of different industries right now. I'm interested in operations. I'm interested in project management, and I'm interested in product management. But I'm a little bit open. I feel like I'm trying to find the right place. And my superpowers is probably that I enjoy doing a bunch of different things at once. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, I actually like find peace in the chaos. And my personal interest is probably just, well, my personal interest is traveling, so I love just exploring wherever I'm living. Right now I'm living in New York. I'm in Harlem, and I love just seeing the city and meeting new people. I guess like the main thing I love is just like getting to know new people and new cultures and stuff. I was living in Australia last, so really cool.
You and Michael need to discuss Australia, apparently.
That, yes.
Everyone needs to discuss AI governance with one another so that we all develop a good understanding of it.
And
Uh,
coincidentally, I'm also in Harlem, Michaela. So that's funny.
No way. We're
Yeah.
following each other. Were you? I was in Melbourne in Australia.
Yeah, I lived in Melbourne too, and Sydney and Adelaide as well.
you
Wow,
guys are just tracking each other.
that's great. Were you at the University of Melbourne as well then?
No, I went to Monash. I went to Monash.
Oh, yeah, very cool. I met a lot of
Wait,
people from
yeah.
Monash.
Did you take a class with Katrina or Kat Denver at Monash by any chance?
I don't think so. I was in the education department,
Got it.
educational leadership department.
A
Yeah,
former colleague who used to run the center that I took over in Belfast went to Monash afterwards. Anyway.
yeah, yeah. Cool.
Amazing place. I loved it there.
Same.
Well, thank you, Michaela.
Yeah.
Thank you for Mark for realizing Michaela's message and safe travels if you have to depart. We are recording, guys. So just in general, we're not able to mark you as attendance if you're not in the course synchronously with us teaching the course, but we will be recording the course, and you're certainly welcome to miss. I believe it's 2 courses of 13. You're able to miss 2 classes. Please let us know if you're going to, but as far as the material itself, just feel free to watch the video if you are going to miss the course, so at least you don't miss any of the substance. Um, okay, so and the communication is key. I think we just have Jayla left and Lynn. And I'm sorry I didn't give you guys any warning, although I guess as the numbers dwindled, Jayla, you must have realized that your number was about to be called. Uh, great to meet you, Lynn. You will go next, and then we can get into some of our materials for the first class tonight.
Alrighty, well, it's nice to meet you all. My name is Jayla Garrett. A little bit about my background. I completed my undergrad in chemical engineering. So I have an engineering background. I've worked for a defense contractor, Lockheed Martin, for the past 2 or 3 years, out of Orlando. And I recently moved to New York, almost a year ago now. Time is flying. And I've lived in the Manhattan, kind of close to Harlem. Objectives for this course, I have never taken any law classes, so this will be kind of an introduction to me. And kind of like what everyone's saying, I want to stay, up to date on just legal concepts and terms and things I should be aware of in this industry that, it's technology. It's a little scary, but I'm excited to learn about legal aspects of this industry. Um, Career objective. So I'm most interested in the healthcare field. That's what I'm interested in. I don't know specifically what role I'm looking for, but I'm definitely hoping to land in healthcare technology to be specific. Superpowers, I like to think that I'm pretty observant, and pretty detail oriented. So I would say those are my superpowers and my personal interest. I like to roller skate. And I also like to do puzzles now. It's kind of been a new hobby I've picked up. And just exploring New York has been a fun interest of mine over this past year when it's not super cold. But I think that is it for me.
That's great, Jayla. Thank you so much, and wonderful to meet you. I feel like we have so many people intersecting with defense technology in our class. It's going to end up being a theme.
Yeah.
But wonderful to have you in the class. Welcome. Mark also just nudged me that Xiaotong, you need to go as well. So we'll go Lin and then Xiaotong. And if I'm not pronouncing anyone's name correctly, please just correct me, and I will obviously do my best moving forward. Lin, shall we hear from thee?
Hi, nice to meet everyone. My name is Lynn. Sorry I couldn't have my camera on today. I'm currently traveling as well. But I'm originally also from California, from the Bay Area, and I went down to Southern California for my undergrad at UC Irvine in business administration and economics. So I've been there all my life, but I did move to New York for Columbia Tech Management. So now I'm located in New York. Objectives for this course, I would say just to get a better understanding of law, um, and technology, of course. I tried taking a class in law of business like a while ago, like maybe 5, 6 years ago, in my community college, but I did not last very long in that class just because of like it's very technical, I would say. I looked at one document, could not understand a single thing, so ended up dropping it. But I'm back now, so we'll see how this goes. I think with AI and everything like that, it's a lot easier to teach yourself materials or at least have a better understanding of um, more technical things like that. So I'm sure this experience will probably be better. For career objectives, this is my last semester at Columbia, so I am looking for a job probably in operations management or marketing. Superpowers, I would say mm, maybe like communication and empathy. I feel like a little bit of empathy can take you a long way. Um, and personal interests, I would say probably tennis. I actually just came back from California for a tennis tournament, so that's why I'm traveling right now. And yeah, it's great being here. Nice to meet you guys.
Great. You're a competitive tennis player. You were competing.
It was like a charity event for like a nonprofit animal shelter. So it was competitive, but more like for fun.
Okay. Very, very exciting and nice to meet you, Lynn. And safe travels, of course. Okay, last but certainly not least, Xiao Tong,
Hello,
please
everyone.
answer these questions for us.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. This is Tong, and I'm from China, Shanghai. And my background is that I worked in the system integration for more than 10 years. And for me, this course that I hope that I have some legal knowledge about how we sign the contract. I mean, more fairly and more protectively for our companies. And also, we want to know how to sign the contract with internal staff like employee or some other guys. Also, and the last objective for this course that I want to know that how to operate the business. I mean, legally, and we follow all the regulations that for the government or for the local or international market. That's the point. And my career objective is that I want to continue with our own business, and we were working on another startup. That's all. And my superpower is that I'm full of energy, and after that, I think that my personal interest is that I'm really interested in learning language and also traveling. Yeah, I just come back from Melbourne last, 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's all.
Well, that's great. Wonderful to meet you, and welcome to the class.
Thank you.
All right, going on to our next slide. Um, an overview of the modules.
And sorry, John, I was transitioning from the slides you
No,
sent to the
no,
slides you sent, rather.
okay, no problem. So guys, just Mark will bring this slide up on the screen shortly. As you'll see, there's still some TBDs as we adjust and confirm. Full disclosure, Mark and I are going to do a better job of dividing and conquering over the course of the summer. Previously, we've really just both come to every class, and one has been the lead, and the other has sort of been a support. We haven't completely confirmed this, but it's our expectation that we'll be mostly switching off, and there'll be a handful of classes, particularly at the end, where we'll both be in attendance for the classes. But there will be weeks that you just see one of us or the other, and some of this will be moving. We'll do our best to give you a couple weeks notice on what's coming next. Mark, please feel.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is that we are typically teaching in a semester with 14 sessions. I understand the summer session is abbreviated with 12 sessions. So we're going to have to combine some material, and we're trying to decide which things fit together well. Part of this will be a reflection of what we've learned from you all today. Clearly, based on your backgrounds and your interests, there are some things that would be of greater value to you than others. So what we may do, instead of combining two meaty topics that are of interest to many of you, we may combine a topic that some of you are less interested in with another topic some of you are less interested in, so that we can spend more time looking at things maybe like AI, maybe like intellectual property, or maybe employment law and compliance issues. So, we'll end up these will go from 13 to maybe 12 or 11. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have a summary session where we overview the things that you should be focusing on for the final exam.
That's right. As far as exams, guys, we're going to have quizzes throughout the semester, and then a final will be a longer quiz. Generally multiple choice questions with a time limit. We'll focus and borrow on everything that we've talked about, and anything from the reading is fair game, over the set section of the course that we're talking about. So, the first quiz, which will be in week 5 or 6, we'll cover the prior 5 or 6 weeks of lecture and class materials. So looking
John,
high level.
John, I didn't want to interrupt you. Did we press record?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we're good. Okay.
Yeah, we're recording. So, for example, next week we're going to be talking about corporate entities, when to form, how to form, what you want to form as, relative advantages, disadvantages, and the kinds of documents and agreements that govern the operations of those entities. Following week, we'll be talking more directly about compensation, the relationship between co-founders, early capitalization strategies around your business, some early hires, and certainly we'll start touching on equity a bit at that point as well. You can see we get into contracts. Mark and I have both have a lot of experience with all types of commercial agreements. So, what we focus on and what we borrow from will really, likewise depend on what we hear from you all over the course of these preceding few weeks. But we try to calibrate that directly to what's going to matter for you and the types of contracts that you're negotiating in your career on behalf of your entities. But then, hey, while we're at it, we should also focus on and support you all in negotiating your own employment agreements, consulting agreements, and the types of actual agreements that are going to impact you individually as professionals. So that's sort of a nice way that we design and have evolved that section of the course to create those kinds of that dichotomy of value for you all. Mark, any other weeks here that you want to delve into in particular?
No, the fact that a lot of folks are interested in AI governance. I'm going to change up some of the stuff we talk about with AI then to talk about governance frameworks more. The fact that a few folks have talked about interest in sort of regulatory compliance maybe means that we focus less on the government relations portion of that lecture and more on the regulatory compliance portion of the lecture. I think that I'm looking forward to teaching this with a smaller class size. We had over 40 students last semester, so we weren't able to tailor the discussions as much to the students' interests because there's such a wide net. But here with a smaller cohort, I think we can really dive down into some of these issues at greater depth.
That's crazy. Grace just added me on LinkedIn.
Huh?
Grace just added me on LinkedIn.
No way.
Like,
I did. I did.
And feel free to add me and Mark on LinkedIn as well, guys. Now we're all contacts. We're in each other's networks. Totally fair game. I'm all about adding one another and each other on LinkedIn.
Thank you, John. I added you just now and Mark as well.
Okay, great. By the way, we will be circulating the slide deck. So there's no need to sort of jot this all down. The decks will be available to everybody.
Okay, so moving on to course principles and grading in modules. Mark, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so
not a lot to share. Final paper we need to remove.
Okay. So Yeah, I mean, we have two quizzes, a final exam. Instead of doing a final paper, we are going to do a presentation. This is something that we piloted last semester. The students really liked it. The way we did it is instead of having a final paper, the students would be assigned then in groups. Here, I guess it'll probably be individually, arbitrarily different days of lecture to cover for the review session. So one of you will be doing contracts 101, one of you will be doing contracts 102 and IP, one of you will be doing privacy. We'll sort of have that um, as the presentation, and the evaluation is based not only on your presenting skills, depth of knowledge, but your engagement with your classmates who are presenting as well. The students last semester really liked this approach because it gave them an opportunity to do a deeper dive into a particular subject matter, and really, I think, help them with the final exam because they became just sort of experts in one of the topics that was covered in the exam itself. Yeah, as John mentioned too, the exams are and the quizzes are, they're multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank type stuff. Nothing that would require a short form essay. We recognize that, for the most part, many of you who aren't going into legal, if you go into a legal career, you'll get the specific legal training. Many of you in the business space do not necessarily need a tremendous in-depth legal knowledge of the wide range of issues because discussed in this class, but certainly enough to issue spot or to be able to understand, generally the direction of travel with respect to a particular issue and when to engage counsel. So we try to have the scenarios aligned with that approach. We're trying to give you a practical knowledge set with respect to the areas that we think are important in this industry from a legal perspective.
That's right. And otherwise, we'll have to adjust to, sorry, apology. Over the course of the semester, last semester, we did adjust the grading a little bit and the percentages and the weight. So this will be revised and included on the syllabus, or Mark, is the version of this on the syllabus already the updated version from last semester?
The syllabus should be updated.
Okay. So the percentages are off. Final paper should be removed. That is my bad. Okay. Moving on to our next slide, policies. We want this to be participatory. We want our learning to be collaborative. Use those little yellow hands that you have at your disposal on Zoom. Raise them. I use them constantly when Mark is leading a lecture, and if I'm just an observer or a secondary support, I will use that hand when I want to chime something in. So we'll keep an eye out. Please feel free to use them, both when we're speaking and when your classmates are speaking. That's really the goal for us, is to get everyone talking and everybody involved. Any other questions regarding this? I feel like everything else is relatively straightforward.
John, you said that you teach at law school, right?
Yes, Mark and I both teach at Brooklyn Law School, in addition to at this program.
Awesome. I'm just so curious, like how different or similar this course would be to like a traditional law school course.
I think Mark and I would both have very different answers for that question. Mark, do you want to answer first, or do you want me to answer first?
Yeah, so it depends.
Good question.
Yeah, so it's a great question. Law, is a discipline. There's sort of what I'll call basically what I think sort of three different types of classes, right? You have what are like clinical classes, and that's John and I used to run one of the law clinics. The law school, that's sort of hands-on, doing actual legal work for actual clients, being supervised by attorneys, and that's more of the clinical experience. You sort of have the doctrinal approach, and that's the big lecture halls with the Socratic method, where the professor calls somebody off a list and goes back and forth and has a colloquy about a particular legal issue or case that was assigned. And then I think you have seminars, which are still on the doctrinal side, but they're more interactive and more engaging. I've taught all three types. I've run a clinic with a colleague of ours at Brooklyn Law School. I've taught doctrinal classes, right, over 100 students, and I was lecturing to them and would cold call them and go back and forth. And I've taught seminars where it's a smaller group discussion. To me, this is more like a seminar from law class. There's a lot less reading in this class than you would have in a law class. And the expectations we have for your in-depth knowledge of legal issues is not going to be the same as if you were law students, at least from my perspective. We also wouldn't be, I mean, some of these, there's a whole class on privacy, right? A whole separate semester-long class in law schools on privacy. There's a whole separate semester-long class on contracts. There's a whole semester long class in intellectual property, multiple ones, right? I taught international intellectual property, which is different from domestic intellectual property, right? So the idea is that in those, we go into much more depth on issues. In this class, we have you read a case or two, and we discuss it generally in law school. Most of what you're doing is reading opinions. Sometimes the professors assign the course book, which is a segment of the opinion. Sometimes the professors assign the entire opinion, which could be hundreds of pages. This is more of, I consider like a law survey class. I describe it to my friends as a whistle-stop tour of important legal issues for people, for non-lawyers in a business environment. Although, John, I don't know if what I've said resonates with your thoughts on this.
No, I thought that was a good answer. I mean, I would approach it slightly differently. I've taught doctrinal courses, and I've taught seminar. Well, I guess I've also taught clinical courses, so I've taught all three as
We taught
well.
one together.
We taught one together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll say this: like your first year of law school, there's 8 or 9 foundational courses that you take, and then much of what you study thereafter ends up being a combination of many of those prior classes, for lack of a better description. So if you're teaching an advanced seminar course, you ask a question to the class and someone answers it, you might say, okay, that makes sense from a property standpoint, but let's think about this from a contracts perspective. And much of your law school education after learning those foundational pieces are the blocks and pieces that fit in between. Now, that can be a little misleading because some of those are quite enormous areas of law on their own. But it's just the notion that a law school education is really distinctly accumulative as your 3 years or in some cases 4 years progress. This will be a great survey, Michael, particularly with an eye towards studying law. And I can say that as an undergrad, I took a survey law course, not dissimilar from what Mark and I are teaching. And it definitely gave me certain insights into what I should expect in law school. And Mark, there are some survey classes in law school that are not dissimilar. You encounter a fashion law class.
Right.
Is fashion law its own subject?
No.
No, fashion law is a section on intellectual property. Fashion law is a section on contracts. Fashion law is a section on risk management. A lot of focus on trademark. I already said intellectual property.
So one of the only books I saved from law school was my maritime law textbook because maritime law doesn't change that much. But as you guys can see, it's quite thick. We read the entire book in a semester for a 2-credit class. As you can see, it has a lot of small text. Sorry, I had that weird background thing on.
Not really showing up in your background.
Yeah, that's all right. But suffice it to say, I mean, you guys are not going to be reading books like this for this class, right? We're not going to assign you cases that are, 200 pages long and then ask you to summarize the case, summarize the outcome, summarize the fact pattern, summarize the dicta, right? And we'll talk about how to read a case. Actually, I forget what case it was. The tariffs case. Students were interested in the tariffs case last, the Supreme Court's decision on the Trump Emergency Economic Powers Act tariff attempt. And so we actually pulled that case up and I had gone through and annotated it. And we talked through how to read the Supreme Court case, how the case is structured. Students like that. If that's something you guys are interested in, we could either take that tariffs case or if there's another Supreme Court case that is issued. Actually, no, we're not going to have any new Supreme Court rulings over the summer. So that's probably, yeah. So what we can do is look at a recent Supreme Court case, unless there's like some weird emergency Supreme Court relief type issue, which we can look at that time. But if any of you is interested in seeing what a simulated law class is, we could potentially arrange for you to sit in on virtually or otherwise, potentially a law class at Brooklyn Law School or maybe one at Columbia.
Great.
I love
Thanks.
that personally. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, by all means, we're certainly here to help, Michael. We can be informal law school advisors. Um, all right. Moving on. What is the law? Mark, I feel like you typically
Love to.
cover this. Love this.
So I want to be cognizant of time because when I'm sharing my screen, I don't see what the clock says. How much? What time are we at? I don't want. I can
It's
spend 3 hours on this.
7:14. 7:14.
Okay,
So
7:14 Eastern. Okay,
hold
great.
yourself
So
to 10 minutes.
I'll be brief on this, but and this is open participation to shout out your answers. Like when we say what is the law, I mean what comes to mind when you hear that, like the law? What do you guys think of? Nothing? Blank stares? Xiaotong, please.
Yeah, when I heard the law, that means that something you must do and to obey, and something that this is like a line that you should not cross. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so you're thinking of that in a what we'd call a criminal context, right? The laws are things you must do and lines you shouldn't cross. That's certainly an
Yeah.
aspect of the law. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, very similar to what Xiaotong said. I was gonna say like rules and regulations
Yeah,
to like follow, and to stay within a parameter.
cool. Yeah, and regulations and rules, they can be part of the law to a certain aspect also. Absolutely. I'm not sure how this goes in order, but it looks like Grace. I think maybe you're next.
Yeah, so like Xiaotong and Tyler just mentioned, I think it's also something put it there to protect each side if there's conflict, if there is anything that will how to say to create conflict, it will protect them. So
Hmm.
sort of each side can play in the rules or they have a rule to refer to so they don't actually crash. And then also it's something it's like a sword hanging above our head
Hmm.
to tell us not to do something. So it's
Yeah.
like a type of above the head sword, so we don't actually end up having any crime or illegal things. So it's needed. It's definitely
Yeah.
needed for everyone. Um, but I think sometimes in America, like the corporate law really protect the corporate more than the employee, which is another thing
Hmm.
that I wanted to explore or discuss with Mark and John,
Yeah.
you two professors later on, because I see that law in different countries is different. In
Yep.
Germany, in China, in Japan, in different kind of different how to say cultures. Sometimes, especially labor law
Yep.
is different. And then this is something we can talk later on how different countries kind of like some protect corporates, some protect employee more. And then me being in the international or global organization, when I go through different type of environment or different stage of the company, I started to see that this is sometimes not fair. Let's say not fair, not 100% fair, or playing equally in different countries. But I guess that's another time for this
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, so you've touched on a couple of things, criminal law, right? But then also civil law, which is the parties, opposing each other. That what we call civil
Right.
law, people suing each other for things. And your reference is law of law as a sort of Damocles is
Mm.
an approach to legal philosophy that was promulgated by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes in a form of jurisprudence called legal realism, where essentially Holmes was saying, people don't what prevents people from committing murder isn't what will the neighbors think if they do it. It's the fear that if they do it, they'll get caught and go to jail.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So that's sort of the carrot versus the stick, sort of the persuasive approach of law because we give government a monopoly of force. And Aryan, it looked like you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, but I think everyone is already providing comprehensive answer. What I'm going to say is basically like, it defines what's allowed and what isn't, and what happened when line get crossed.
Yeah, I think these are all great explanations of what the law is, and law sort of encompasses sort of a wider aspect of what it is. And I like to think of law as a system of principles and rules governing behavior. right? So why I usually, if I teach a class on jurisprudence, I always open up by saying, why is murder illegal? And people give all kinds of reasons. Oh, it's immoral. Sorry, John. Hmm? Oh, it's immoral. Oh, it's bad. Oh, people shouldn't do it, but the reason that murder is unlawful is because we say it is, right? We have a process that establishes who gets to put the rules together. We have a process to adopt these rules, and we have mechanisms for enforcement. So murder is illegal because we say it's illegal. The law doesn't really preoccupy itself with morality. The law is amoral. It just is. And there's different jurisdictions have different approaches to it. In the United States, and we'll talk about it, there's this process where you have a legislative body that passes it and the president signs it, then it gets interpreted by the courts. There are some places where you have a slightly different approach to law. There are older jurisdictions where the king just made the law, right? Or the queen just made the law and said, this is what the law is. You have different forms of government and different structures. But when we talk about the idea of rule of law, it's this idea that countries that have these established laws that are publicly available, so anyone can read what the law says, and they're interpreted by an independent body and enforced in an even-handed way, gives people a better sense of risk mitigation. So those of you in the international context have potentially countered in situations where you're thinking of engaging in a transaction in a particular country, where there may be concerns about the efficacy of rule of law. You might be working in a jurisdiction wherein you might want to be building a factory somewhere, and you're saying, gee, how do we know that if we buy this land and build this factory, the government won't come seize this land and seize this factory? How do we know that, there isn't going to be some sort of corruption element where officials come in and demand that we pay them in order to continue to operate a business? So there are all sorts of businesses that look into these things, and the clients that I work with, these big global financial institutions, they subscribe to services like Dun and Bradstreet, right? That might give them notices or particular things regarding the business or other industries or organizations that will evaluate the efficacy of this. I had somebody that I knew who owned a company that they got hired by Firestone Tire because Firestone was thinking of building a rubber plantation in a particular jurisdiction, and whether or not they would have the geopolitical stability of a 15-year time horizon in order to realize the profits from that. So when you look at the importance of having, different legal regimes and understanding how they are, being in a jurisdiction where there's strong enforcement, strong establishment of rule of law gives greater predictability because the law can work very well as a mechanism to enhance stability and a mechanism by which you can measure potential risk. So we talked about there's two main areas of law, right? Criminal, you run through a stop sign, you'll get a ticket. Civil, I run through a stop sign and drive onto your yard and break your fence. You sue me because I damaged your fence. So you have the civil law, the lawsuit, the criminal law. What John used to do as an assistant district attorney. People break the law and you prosecute them. In the types of things that we're looking at, you have different types of legal regimes that exist. You have intellectual property, which tends to be more of a global approach. So you have consistency with intellectual property enforcement across regimes. You have employment, whereas even in the United States, New York City has different employment rules than New York State, different employment rules than California. Tax implications, obviously contracts, that's more private law, compliance, more regulatory stuff. We're going to talk more about sources some other time, but in the United States, if you operate in New York City, you have the New York City laws that you have to comply with, the New York State laws you have to comply with, the federal, so laws that encompass the entire United States. Industries have their own ways of being regulated. So a lot of my clients are regulated by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency in the Department of Treasury and the New York Department of Financial Services, OCC, federal, New York DFS, state. So you have all these different regimes that are competing here. And so we talked about in New York City, you have the municipal, right, the city laws. You can have the state laws, New York State, the laws of the United States. And then within this entire framework of US law, you have sort of the Constitution, which says the power of law. It's the supreme law of the land, they say. Then you have statutes, which are laws adopted by Congress and signed by the president, right? You have regulations, which we're going to have a whole section on, but essentially executive branch agencies delegated authority by Congress to do certain things in areas like the Environmental Protection Agency. And then judges sort of can make law in the United States because we're a common law system, wherein the judges will interpret a statute, and then the way they interpret the statute affects how it's applied. So if there's a law that's passed that says, you can't wear a yellow shirt, and the courts interpret yellow to mean yellow and orange, even though the law only says yellow, if the courts say it also means yellow and orange, then you can't wear orange shirts. We're not going to get into the First Amendment free speech implications of banning the color of a particular shirt. But that's just my ridiculous hypothetical because I happen to be wearing a yellow shirt. So we're going to get into all these things, but this is important as a understanding that the law is sort of a framework for governing behavior, and those able to make the law, whether it's by Congress authorizing a statute or referendum, like they do in California, where everybody votes on a thing, it's a mechanism for exerting control and furthering important objectives. Sorry, John, I hope that I stuck within my 10-minute time frame there. I can go on for hours on this particular issue. John, you're muted.
Right. No, you did quite well, Mark. I actually think you nailed the 10 minutes. And we started at 7:14 and now 7:24. So without looking at the clock, you hit it pretty neatly.
Good.
Okay, so we can shift and talk a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, this is a thanks, Mark. So this is a psychological theory that outlines human motivations through a period of needs, progressing from a tier that outlines basic survival, the physiological needs, all the way up to personal fulfillment and self-actualization, living a fully realized life in its notion. In its essence, this is essentially a model for understanding the motivations of humans' behavior. So, what are the things that we want and need, and how do they progress? So, like very briefly, the physiological here is well, not how they progress. How do they lead to one another, or how do they build or feed one another? So this physiological needs include basic survival requirements, things like sustenance, food and water to satiate ourselves, shelter, sleep, rest, air. Like, what do we need to actually stay alive? Safety needs, as that progresses to we are alive. How do we protect that life, protect that continued life? Um, Love and belonging, connectedness. This is sort of the community tier for Maslow. And then the esteem needs. So once we're a part of that community, how do we rise within that community? How do we feel not only nourished psychologically and emotionally, but also accomplished, progressive in that space? And that rises up to self-actualization, this realizing our full personal potential for creativity, for growth. How do we truly fulfill our own purpose? So the underlying notion here is that each one of these tiers or these steps in the theory suggest or lead to the next step. Like, you cannot achieve the safety needs until the physiological needs are thereby met. And here, let's move on to the next slide, Mark. We come up with these parallels. The parallels being, how the needs of business might there align with the survival requirements for a business. Things like the team, the idea, the plan of execution, so the strategic plan for growing that business. Across the line, we can sort of look at that pyramid and assign the life cycle of an early stage business. Mark, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that? I'm ready to move on to the business life cycle.
Well, I guess, yeah, way to sort of think about this too, and I sort of interpret this slightly. The way I take away from this something else, or just sort of don't boil the ocean on day one. There's a lot of things that your business would need to have in place before you can really sort of achieve all the things that you want to do. So there seems to be a natural progression in many businesses. So where you need to get to before you can go on to the next thing. And some of these things can happen simultaneously. Some of these things need to happen in a linear fashion.
That's right. And when a client walks in the door to us with day one, and they say, I have a really great idea. First, I need to get a patent. Then I need to trademark it. Now I need to be a Delaware C Corp. I want to send out 10, 20 million shares. I don't have anyone to issue them to. I don't have any investment dollars yet. I don't have a team. That's when Mark and I would say, whoa, let's do the first things first. And let's build this entity from the ground up in the right way. So too with Maslow's hierarchy, we need to establish certain necessities before we're able to progress on to the next level of need. So moving on to the business life cycle, we've seen a lot of businesses progress along similar trajectory. So this is one illustration of what a potential life cycle for a business looks like. I will say they're not uniform for every business. A person walks in the door and you want to get a sense of what they want to be when they grow up. What does an entity want to be when it grows up? I believe, was it Lynn, were you the one talking about an entity that you were starting and whether or not it was going to be a not-for-profit? And a very reasonable and real consideration early. Well, how are we going to fund it? Is philanthropy and grants the right way to fund it? Then we should consider the foundation or the not-for-profit strategy. Are we going to be appealing to simply friends and family, but we don't plan on giving away equity? Well, that too is going to inform how we're going to incorporate, how we're going to grow the business. But the notion is that a business might start in this launch and startup phase, progress into a growth stage, enter a maturity stage. Some companies want in there, self-perpetuating, no expectation of an exit at any point. But at the outset, when we first engage with a client or when we first start ideating around what type of business we want to run, working with the right legal counsel or business strategy counsel, you're going to be having discussions along these lines. And this is one illustration of what that early stage business might look like. And then we, as attorneys, at least that's how we see things because we're myopic to our areas of expertise. We can start thinking about, well, what do we need to do when? When do we need to start thinking from an employment perspective, how we're going to grow the team and what kind of protections need to be there for the business? From an IP perspective, when do we start locking down our intellectual property and what strategies do we use to protect that intellectual property? Organizational structure position, you might start as something and evolve into something later on. All of that's going to intersect with this business life cycle at different points, and it's going to be informed by what makes sense for your growth strategy, so your strategic plan, and also just what your goal is for the business, separate and apart from that. Okay. Mark, what is the next slide? Good to great. I think there might be, yes, you can skip ahead now. Okay. So we'll talk a bit about the hedgehog concept now. So a popular concept that's often or commonly subscribed to is the hedgehog concept. I'm in fact quite critical of this from a number of perspectives, but I'll hold off on getting into that for a moment. It's popularized by Jim Collins in his book entitled Good to Great, which emphasizes that as entrepreneurs, as business people, we should be focused on what a company can be best at. So, what is the opportunity for a company to really differentiate itself? What drives its economic engine? So how does it make money? What's its most valuable vertical for earning dollars, i.e. making itself sustainable and growing? And what are the people involved? So either the founders or the employees, what are they most passionate about? And what are they going to put their energy into? What's going to attract people to the cause? What this boils down to is essentially identifying and honing in on a single core competency to achieve long-term success. Single core competency. And the reason they use the hedgehog analogy is because the hedgehog has this primary defense mechanism of rolling up into a ball to protect itself. Essentially, the hedgehog, and if we have any hedgehogs in our families, please apologies on our behalf. The hedgehog excels at one thing, and so too should most businesses. Now, this is often articulated. Mark, you can hop ahead to the next slide. this is often articulated using a Venn diagram. See what I was talking about here? A Venn diagram that has this shared section, the overlap between what drives the economic engine, what can you be best at in the world, and what are you deeply passionate about. Personally, and I alluded to this already, and Mark might have his own opinions. I'm not a huge fan of the hedgehog concept because it feels like every startup I've been involved in, every not for profit that I've been associated with, as either as a staff member or board member, um, which has received like kind of this business school 101 advice is like focus on what you do really well, focus on what you can be best at, scale it. And do nothing else. It sort of disregards that. What are we most passionate about? It really focuses on what can you do best and how can you best scale it. And to my mind, this stifles something that I think is very important in our careers and in business, which is opportunism. I think any strong strategy for our careers or for our business's growth trajectory certainly focuses on strategic growth, but also reserves some 10 or 15% of one's time for opportunities that might arise or stuff that we haven't thought of yet. And I do think that there's a little bit of a gap here. Apologies, I'm turning on my do not disturb. I do think there's a little bit of a gap here with when we're too strictly adherent to the hedgehog concept, where we don't really have room for opportunism, where we don't really make room for evolution or innovation around what we're good at or what we're interested in or what the market needs might be. So it presupposes that wherever you stand at that moment, you've reached the apex of what you're going to achieve. Like you've been in business for 4 years, you're doing one thing pretty well, and you're doing which maybe you can do great, and you're doing one thing that's really driving your economic engine. Well, it sort of says like you've grown up. That's where you're at now. You just have to focus on doing that really, really well. It stands in stiff contrast to a theory that I prefer, which is called the innovator's dilemma. The innovator's dilemma. The innovator's dilemma holds that companies can often fail to adapt to new technology or to market disruption or to market evolution because they're overly prioritizing catering to their existing customer base or already prioritizing to just building off the portfolio that they're already working on. Customer bases are inherently kind of slow to change. And if we're just catering to what folks want or what folks wanted yesterday, we end up looking like cable news. We end up looking like CNN and MSNBC or Fox News with a slowing and shrinking viewership. Innovation forces us to sometimes make unpopular decisions to expand services and products, to think ahead of the market, and to sort of disregard what would otherwise be the safer, incremental, incidental, step-by-step improvement that the hedgehog concept more or less strongly suggests. So I think we can all look at the marketplace and we can kind of determine businesses that have been overtly adherent to the hedgehog concept. These are businesses that have failed to adapt. These are businesses that are very good at providing a specific service to existing customers, but it's going to undermine the development of a new product or new services that might be needed by future clients. Guys, any questions on any of that before we start moving into mission statements? Mark, did you want to add anything to the overview of Hedgehog Innovator's Dilemma?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, look, these are simplistic models, right? I mean, Clayton Christensen's book on the Innovator's Dilemma, I think, was really groundbreaking. And I think the case example is that Christensen talks about, iOmega, with zip drives, Harley Davidson, it's fascinating. There are some companies that, were some of the biggest companies in the world that most of you, like Sears, used to be responsible for like 5% of US GDP or something, and now we're Sears. So yeah, companies, I think, starting off, maybe focus on the things they're really good at. But if you only focus on the things you're good at and only serve what you think your client base wants, Apple almost went bankrupt when Steve Jobs left it. He went and started power computing. Anyway, this is not a class on entrepreneurship, though. But from a legal perspective, it's important to understand sort of what the approach is and what the strategy is, and then figure out how to best serve that and mitigate risk from a legal perspective.
Yeah, and while this is not a class on entrepreneurship, so many of the businesses that we're going to end up working with, and several of you yourselves might end up being entrepreneurs, and it's important to understand this origin story for where entrepreneurship comes from, and what are the popular theories and counsel that those individuals receive, because that's going to shape who we're working with, often who my clients are, often who your bosses and partners will be. So to have a firm grasp on that tends to have value. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about mission statements. Mission statements. This early adoption of a phrase that captures in a nutshell what our ethos is, what our goals are, what our ambitions are, who we are. What we're going to do is we can go to the next slide, Mark. We have a handful of them here that we've borrowed and added to our deck. And I think we're just going to ask for volunteers to kind of read one and sort of pull out what they see as the key terms that are cropping up for them in that mission statement and what it means to them. So here our first one is HP, Hewlett Packard. Do we have any volunteers who want to take a stab at deciphering the meaning behind this mission statement? Hey, Junie.
Yeah. Yeah, John. So, mission statement of HP to engineer experiences that amaze each and every one of our customers. And you want us to read it, right? Not to
Yeah, no, what does it what is
right.
it? Yeah, no, nice job reading it. Now, what does it mean to you? What are the words that jump out at you?
Yeah. So, to me, I think HP is very engineering driven, first of all. And then they want to benefit each and every of our customer, which is means they're customer centric. Hopefully, there still are, but I guess it's when it started, they wanted to, differentiate and kind of like tell people that they are more engineering driven compared to, some are marketing driven. I personally feel like Apple is more engineering driven. I like them better, but respect HP anyways.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, on the product side, sure, I'm with you. And in class last semester when we had 40 students looking at across the screens, I think I counted 2 or 3 computers that weren't Apple computers.
Okay.
Um, but you know what? I think you're drawing it. Second word, engineers,
Mm,
innovators, technologies, experiences that amaze each and every customer. They're not just building consumer products that you buy and use and don't think about. They're really speaking to the technology itself and the ability for the technology to further what you're working on. So it's less like Apple's a product that we can use and we don't have to think about too much and look how simple it is, to being like, here's a technology that we engage with that you can build upon.
mm,
That's the implication for me in this. Very deliberate word choice. Amaze. So
mm.
it's a risky, little bit of a risky way of describing it, right? I want something that's really reliable. I want something that I can build on. Amaze is just it's a little bit more amorphous. I mean, it's inspiring, but just to think about what the motivations were and how they engineered this mission statement. Does anyone else want to chime in on their own perspective? What did Junie and I miss?
I also just feel a little underwhelmed by HP and their products, knowing that that is their mission statement, if that makes sense. But
I
I
think
don't
that's
know
fair.
if that's just because I don't know enough of HP products, but I'm just like, if that's the mission statement, then like, hmm. Anyway.
No,
Also,
I strongly encourage you, Michael. Let me just chime in there, and then I want to hear your second point. I strongly encourage you and really everyone in the class to think of yourselves as a prime consumer. Your opinion here matters. If you're very underwhelmed by HP's products and you feel like this statement is trying too hard, it's a very rational perspective on this. So I'm glad you shared it, but feel free to share it and speak it from the soapbox. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right, go on with your second point.
Well, I think it's a great mission statement. It's a great like North Star, right? I just don't know if they've accomplished that quite yet. But again, I maybe need to research HP a little bit more. I also just was curious about when you guys offered this course, when there was like more students. Was it in the summer as well, or was it like spring?
Oh, spring.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, okay. Just curious. Okay, got it.
We
Thank you.
taught this last spring. We taught this spring that just passed, and now this summer. This is the
We
third time that
just
we did
finished
it.
teaching it. We're starting it over again.
Yeah, we
Wow.
took
Yeah.
took 1 week off. We just submitted grades. We gave everyone a D.
Oh my gosh.
Are you serious?
No, they
All
won't
right.
let us. We tried. I'm just kidding.
Can I ask a quick question, John, if you don't mind? I mean,
Yes,
Michael.
please.
Yes, thank you. So,
Michael or me?
uh, both of you guys. I mean,
Okay.
sorry if Michael haven't finished the question, but I wonder if this is still the mission of HP, because it sounds like a very original old version. And then, honestly, I wonder, if app sh should we look at Apple, or I don't know if we have Apple or someone else like their competitor. Um, can we look at those as well? If
Does
you
someone want to Google and bring
oh,
up Apple's mission statement and drop it into the chat? I'm fine with you doing that. Oh, we already have it here. Of course.
and also, John, we're looking at mission statement. Sorry if I'm asking this dumb question because how does that relate to law, or what do you want to what do we want to understand here? Because mission statement usually is a marketing message. Like you want us to understand it's also a legal thing. Is that right? Or
Well, I mean, I think Mark and I might have different answers to why we like to do this at the front part of a course. I have a general perspective that I share with early stage clients that's like this, which is that when you're developing your business, your idea, what you're going to be doing,
mm-hmm.
your ambitions for it, services, the team, the aesthetic. I'm a very strong believer that it really should be comp comprehensive, and that's even to the extent of when I start developing agreements for a client. I say, look, I've created the agreement, but you might want to change the font. You might want to change the design. You might even not be comfortable with some of the language. Certainly run all of those changes by me when it pertains to language. But um, from top to bottom, our companies should really reflect that core ethos. And a lot of the time that starts with a mission statement. We'll talk a bit about founders agreements later in the semester, and founders agreements can be big, complicated, messy things.
Mm,
But in many ways, a mission statement to me is a core component of a founders agreement. We're essentially establishing the ethos and the strategy around how we're going to run our business. So, our legal fingerprints on mission statements. Yeah, I mean they're run by legal teams, I'm sure, once they've gone through marketing. I
mm,
certainly like to add my 2 cents to them when I'm helping a company kind of develop or formalize its business and think about what it wants to be when it grows up. And I think a mission statement is a core component to that. Now, is a mission statement a contract between a company and its customers, or a company and the public? And you can make that argument as well. I mean, it's not an enforceable contract, but it certainly is a foundational piece that's establishing all that comes afterwards. Mark, do you think that was a fair answer? Do you have another explanation for why we
Well, yeah,
include?
because you often see at early stage companies when they do establish a mission statement, if it's a dorm room startup between some founders, that as things get more serious, as there could be interest from potential investors, sometimes you have a rift between. I mean, look what happened with, I guess, Chat OpenAI, whether it would be a nonprofit or whether it would be a for-profit enterprise. And sometimes, even though a mission statement isn't legally binding, as John mentioned, it does inform the strategy. It does inform the ethos. And it's also helpful to understand what a company's goals are, especially at the early stage, advising as to what the corporate structure should be. Does it make sense for it to be a partnership? Does it make sense for it to be a corporation? Does it make sense for it to be a nonprofit? And the mission statement can help guide those discussions. Because if a mission statement is to make, technology free for everybody, and then all of a sudden they're sitting on technology that could be really valuable, well, you can't necessarily say we want to make technology free, but we're going to charge a lot of people for it, right? So that it helps inform those discussions. Sorry, I saw a hand go up that has now gone away. I didn't see whose hand it was. Oh, Shotong, please.
Yeah, I think that I figured out why we were using mission statement because when you mentioned open AI, because that's once you have your mission statement, you will know what you want to do and what you want to reach in the future. And so you will have the right law, to help you go through the way to that destination. Yeah, that's the point, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so having just reviewed the HP agreement, so too we're going to look at the Apple agreement as per Grace's request. Grace, do you want to read it?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Apple's mission statement is to challenge the status quo, to think differently, to bring the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services.
So what's the crux of that statement? I feel like the challenge to status quo to think differently is a little bit different from the mission statement too, under the pink.
Yeah, so I think Apple really emphasized innovation, innovative. They didn't talk about engineering, and they said the best user experience. I personally feel like this is more detailed, concrete, and they talk about software, hardware, software, and services, not just the hardware. So I like this better, I think. What do you think?
Why it's emphasizing user experience. When we're talking about engineers, we're not necessarily talking about user experience. We're talking about technologists being engineers being amazed, building upon, creating
Mm.
platform. This is more about seamless integration into our lives, innovative
I agree.
hardware, software, services that expedite, support, streamline aspects of our life, improve user experience. That's why I think there's a little bit of it stands in contrast to the challenging status quo to think differently, both of which are like much more kind of active and disruptive statements. And this aligns. I take my AirPods out of my pocket, I put them in my ears, they sync immediately.
Mm.
It's a seamless user experience. All right, Mark, as we're dwindling in time, do we want to take a look? Maybe we should take a look at Amazon. Ugh, such a big part of all of our lives. All right, does someone want to read Amazon? Come on, can a Prime member please raise their hand? Stand up, read this. Xiaotong, yes. Grace, you already went. I'm going to call on Xiaotong.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And to be honest, most customer-centric company where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. I think that's important because this decided that Amazon will find that it is just like a platform, so you have some rules that how to protect the two sides, the customer, the buyers, and the suppliers. Yeah, that's great.
There's most customer. It repeats customer. Pretty deliberate there. I mean, there could be other ways of phrasing that.
So that's why I think that Amazon will have some laws that to protect the customers. That's because customer is very important to the. So yeah.
Yeah, notice they don't talk about labor very much.
Or
Earth
data
to
centers.
be or data centers to be Earth's most customer centric company. So they're a green company. They're zero carbon footprint. Certainly, those beautiful design blue trucks driving around, which I think are like a Rivian collaboration, are very innovative. Hold on, guys. Sorry, one moment. I have an intruder.
John has young kids. So when he says he's an intruder, I assume one of his children has wandered in. Um, uh, but yeah. Oh, hey, Roman.
Hello.
Yeah. Anyway, so as
Sorry,
far as the
guys.
mission
The
statements,
thrills of teaching at home.
yeah. But yeah, as far as
Um,
mission statements go, obviously none of this, as we said, is legally binding, but it does help sort of guide a conversation. Now, one of the things that we also are going to be getting into later has to do with corporate structure and duty of directors, fiduciary responsibility. Not to say that mission statements have necessarily a bearing on fiduciary responsibility, but there are certain circumstances where I imagine, and I can do some research to see if this isn't the case law, that and John, I wonder if we know of any lawsuits that have been brought by shareholders arguing that a company's mission statement does play into the expectations of the company from a corporate governance perspective. I mean, a vague mission statement, might not be as binding, but if there's a company that's founded on green technology that has a mission statement of, offsetting everything with carbon credits and having the most minimal environmental impact, and does some sort of partnership with a, fossil fuels exploration company, for instance. Um, I could certainly see circumstances where, were I somebody representing a shareholder class action, I would bring out the mission statement as some sort of promise or pledge or representation to shareholders or investors, with respect to what the company is going to do. I don't know if that's ever been the case, but if somebody wants some extra credit, they could do some research on that.
yeah, I mean, it treads into like the public benefit corporation conversation, which I feel like is really going further and further out of fashion. Probably should be further and further out of fashion. This notion that we can incorporate as a public benefits corporation, which for all intents and purposes really resembles a C corp, but includes as a premise that you can prioritize environmental impact, social impact, labor impact as one of your core missions. When previously a shareholder might be able to sue leadership or a board of directors if they're not properly prioritizing, maximizing shareholder value. Now, someone could organize as a public benefits corporation and in turn co-prioritize things like environmental impact. So make a decision that's more environmentally sound, less economically beneficial on a shareholder perspective or from an equity perspective, and improve the company. And while previously there could be a shareholder suit on that topic, the idea behind a public benefits corporation is you can co-prioritize those priorities. I feel like that's more or less out of the window, but whether a company strayed from those social impact principles could be the grounds for a shareholder suit, although I'm not familiar with anything major in that regard, Mark, unless you are. In the event you are. All right.
Well, I mean, John, I
Okay.
know we have about 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
Do we want to open the floor to questions, or do we want to try to do a couple more mission statements? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we can just open up to questions. Still getting our sea legs underneath us as we climb onto
So,
land.
and look, just so you all know, one of the things that the students have let us know in the past, there are some issues we're still trying to resolve with respect to the way the Canvas site is set up. It's for some reason it's sort of a Byzantine sort of things that are linked to each other in a way that you know we don't really think is as easy as it's meant to be, for us to do things. So that being said, if there are things that seem a little wonky on Canvas that don't really make sense, please let us know. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we do have periodic assignments, that are due. We'll let you know what those are in advance. But we do expect that each of you engage in what's called the weekly reflection. The intent is, and this is due, we have it due on the Monday before the class on Tuesday, which is sort of a short observation, reflection on the reading material. It's important that you do these. It's important that you do them by the time they're due. We review these before class to get a sense of where students are, the things that students are interested in before class begins. This is not meant to be something unduly burdensome. It's not meant to be a thoughtful 5 paragraph, complicated, insightful observations as to what the material is. It's really just a few sentences, informal, but not so informal that we can't understand what you're saying, but just sort of what your thoughts are on the reading material or things that you're interested in or that you picked from the reading material that you thought was particularly interesting or salient.
And think of it as a journal entry. What we really want to see is is you grappling with materials critically or supportively. How is this expanding your perspective on a certain topic, or changing your perspective on a certain topic, or reaffirming a prior held belief? So engagement is the goal of the weekly reflection.
Great. And Michael, what you got?
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys mentioned Canvas. It looks like there was an assignment for today. Was that like an introduction? And do we still have time to do that?
Yeah, you can do that we did go through and talk it over in person. But if you want to just jot down a few things for next week, don't worry about the timing of that. If just I guess just basic sort of the stuff that we talked about in class. We know your name, but where you are in the world, and a couple notes about your interest and objectives for the class. Look, we heard them, so nothing too exhaustive. No more than 3 or 4 sentences, I think. Is that fair, John?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, what's that really just to highlight is that this percentage of the class that's for class participation. And so that's the first kind of chunk of class participation, is that we give it to you and ask you to speak for a couple minutes on yourself. And all of you have done that. You all got a C plus. And so no, I'm just kidding, obviously. And that's so a component of that was your self-introduction, but no, it will progress throughout our remaining weeks together. We're just looking for you guys to talk a lot, ask questions, have positions and opinions, and offer them.
Okay,
I don't think that's going to be an issue with this group, because it seems like we're all really engaging in a way that's great. I like having a smaller class to a larger class.
okay, and just one more question. Would you mind, and if it's not helpful to other folks, maybe not, but just the first assignment is the in-class discussion, or the second assignment, I guess. It looks like it's due on Friday. What is
No,
that?
so wait, what is the assignment that appears to be due on Friday? Can you just tell me what it says?
It just says is incredibly, oh wait, it says in-class discussion. Okay, wait, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. So this is what I mean by the Canvas areas. Don't worry, the in-class discussion,
Oh,
you guys aren't doing anything, but as part of the attendance grade, we will note in-class discussion. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It is an aggregate
okay, I'm
in-class
so sorry.
discussion.
It probably would have made sense. Okay, so the only first assignment, if I looked at it, the only first assignment is actually Monday, which is the journal thing that you talked about. Like,
Correct.
okay, and the introduction. Okay, got it. Thank you.
This is what I mean by the Canvas area is all screwed up. That's why we're talking about it through. We're working on fixing it. I don't really understand Canvas. I hate it. I like giving people a syllabus, but it doesn't matter. Weekly reflection every week. On top of that, 3 evaluations, right? Well, it should be 2 quizzes and a final exam, right? Final presentation. And there is a brief written assignment that has to do with one of the assigned readings, and it's maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs, informal. I think it's due in week 5, but I'll double check. You will not be ambushed. John and I are incredibly reasonable. If somebody misses something, not the quizzes, but if you miss a weekly reflection and shoot us a note, something happened, we're fine. If you miss 5 weekly reflections, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Right.
It's 8:02. We appreciate you all. It was very good to meet you all. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
All right.
Have a great
Thanks.
night.
Take care, everybody, and travel safe.
Ciao. Bye, guys.